Check, check. We good, Mr. Gorman? All right. Well, thank you for coming tonight. I am Jeff Johnson, Superintendent out of Auditorium Public Schools. And tonight we are going to begin an introduction into an exploration of an extracurricular bond proposal for 2022. I'd like to introduce Matt Slagle. He is with Tower Pinkster Architectural Firm, and he is somebody that we had contacted right away when looking at an extracurricular bond and some of the work that could be done in that process. The reason for this meeting here tonight, along with another one coming up next in a couple weeks on March 9th, will be to get some community involvement, some understanding around what this bond proposal might look like prior to a March 14th board meeting that will take place, where action will or will not take place at that point in time. So the reason, I guess, to start would be the why, and the why around an extracurricular bond proposal. Over the past couple years, we've had many needs within the district, many structural needs, many spatial needs. There's been requests for more space, for kids to do more throughout the districts, whether that and largely around the extracurricular activities that they do here within the district. We reviewed many options as a school district, started saving some of our own district funds where we have been putting aside money for some of these options, along with looking at outside donations and partnerships in order to help create some of this extra space in the district. Another reason for this extracurricular bond proposal as well is here at Montague Area Public Schools, we are changing conferences this year as far as our athletics are concerned. And the West Michigan Conference is going to be split into two different conferences, where there will be a large conference and a small conference, meaning large districts and small districts. We have been placed in the large conference, although we are at the very low end or the smaller side of that large conference. We look at our facilities and look at that in comparison to those larger districts that we'll be competing against. The need for that is definitely there. In this process and looking for the extra space and the extra facilities that we need here within the district, we reached out to our district financial advisors with PFM, who we do a number of different work with, whether it be refinancing of bonds or any other bonds that have taken place previously as well. And in that process, to look to see what kind of millage it would take, we were pleasantly surprised to find that with a 0 mill increase, we could actually create some revenue here within the district for a project, and I'll get into that shortly. So thinking that it would be an increase, to find out that it would be a 0 mill increase, that was a nice surprise, so that's why we continued to move forward. Also creates a longevity plan for the district. Back in 2019, we had passed the sinking fund as far as a 0 mill increase as well. When some of the refinancing took place on a previous bond for a 0 mill increase, we were able to gain that sinking fund. And then looking in the future as well, with some of the larger bonds that have taken place, we would look for another larger bond to take place, hopefully at that 0 mill increase as well in the 2030-31 school year as well. So this kind of puts ourselves in between that, so then for a longevity plan, you could look at 0 mill increases for the years to come in 3 different sets to keep the facilities around Montague Area Public Schools up to the highest level. Next slide, Mr. Gorman. So just to make sure that we're got everybody on the same page, what is a bond and how does it work? A bond is a common way for school districts to borrow money. It acts as a loan for school improvements, and if approved, the bond would be paid through a portion of your property taxes. This is something that would be needed to be voted upon, no matter if it is an increase or staying the same. And the process that would take place is, first, a meeting would need to be set up with the Treasury Department with an understanding around our tax collections throughout the district, the numbers that would be put in as far as improvements or projects taking place within a bond. That is why we have reached out to Tower Pinkster, as they are the experts in that. They would provide and put together a big, large 75-page document that they then work with the Treasury Department, ourselves, finance directors, facility director, to look to see if this is even something that's capable in the eyes of the State of Michigan Treasury Department. We would then also work with our law firm, Troom Law Firm, as far as ballot language and what that would look like for an upcoming election. Next slide. So how much is the bond and what will the cost the taxpayers? The proposed bond would provide approximately $12.5 million to the school district for many improvements. This bond would cause 0 mills, meaning that it would not create an increase to your property taxes. This is possible because the district is able to extend a current bond. So this $12.5 million is pending on the time of the voting. That $12.5 million is based upon an August vote. There could be increased dollars the later that we would look to go that, but I'll get into that in a future slide when we talk about when the voting might look and take place. This is an extension of the district's loan debt from 2035 to 2037. So that's how you get that for that 0 mil increase, is that the loan debt that is out there based upon previous bonds and refinancings that have taken place is currently ending in 2035. This would extend that to 2037. Originally, it was at 2039. Through some of the refunding that we have done as a district, and in that process, we've since moved it back to that 2035, and this would now extend that another two years in the debt loan fund. Next slide, Mr. Gorman. So extracurriculars, something that I'm a true believer of. In a study done by the USDE, the Department of Education, it was revealed that students who participate in extracurricular activities are 3 times more likely to have a grade point average of 3.0 or higher. Extracurricular activities increase students' connection to school, raises their self-esteem, and positive social natures. Having proper facilities and equipment for these activities is important to their success. The areas at the start, as we are beginning this process, that we look to emphasize in this work is around athletics, our FFA, our Ag department, DECA, which is our business CTE program, band and choir, theater, and robotics. These extracurriculars are a great starting point for the success in life, and the time management that it takes for our students to not only be academically astute throughout the learning day, but then the time that they have to, and the extra efforts that they have to put in after school for the activities that they are involved in. I also want to take note at this time within the West Michigan Conference and this new expansion in some of the larger districts, they've also made some tweaks to the conference, and that's providing additional extracurricular activities that will have competitions as well, such things as Quiz Bowl, Science Olympiad, and other academic related skills. So it's not just a sports conference, but some of the other conferences or schools that are joining from other conferences, they wanted to include some of the Quiz Bowls and the Science Olympiads and the robotics competitions that we already do as part of this process as well. Next slide. So this is, at a first glance, a proposed idea of what the bond projects could look like. And I know the pictures are small, and I'll kind of touch base on those a little bit. They're purposely small because obviously these are just put out there as an idea at this point in time. There's still a lot more planning, and part of that is these meetings here to get a better understanding of some of the things that you're looking at. The numbers are approximate, of course, at this point in time, and like no other time, we are very unsure around prices of building as we move forward as well, due to some of the inflation that's taking place and just the price to build anything at this point in time, as far as timelines are concerned as well. So when you look at the feature, I think that, as you can see, as far as dollar amounts, is a gymnasium, and this would be a performance gym that would be stationed off the high school in some way, shape, or form. If you can see in that top left-hand drawing there, you can see that the current idea that would be extended off the northwest side of the gymnasium. There would have a corridor or connection to the current gymnasium that would become a secondary gymnasium for use as well. This is extremely important throughout our district, as we have many students practicing here till 9 o'clock every single night. And we feel that with this extra room and space to take place, that we feel that students could be done sooner, whether that be more likely at 7 o'clock rather than 9 o'clock, because when we're talking about their academic success and staying up late and having good rest, I think that is extremely important. This would be a performance gym. It would also provide two side courts as well, meaning for basketball, volleyball, or any indoor use in that process. This would be a two-storied gymnasium, as you can see on the right there. In a brief, this would be a two-story where you would actually come and work your way into the performance gym from the second level, whether that be walking in at the second level or having to go upstairs to that second level. Obviously, with any new builds with ADA compliance, there would need to be elevators in that process as well. But at that second level, you would have a kind of lobby area where there'd be concessions area, there'd be bathrooms. You would then work your way on the bleachers on either side down into the court. As you can see on the very top side, would be a bleacher section for our own student section in that process as well. On the main floor, or the court level floor, there would also be a fitness center, weight room, full-out weight room with the latest equipment, which is part of the process that we were going through as well. It'd have team rooms for our teams, not necessarily locker rooms, as the locker rooms would be just located through the corridor to our current gymnasium already. On the top level as well, on that second level, there would be a track that would be around the whole gymnasium itself, which would allow an opportunity for people to get additional aerobic exercise as well. Second thing on the list is a ag barn. That ag barn, FFA barn, was another project that we were working towards and saving our dollars for. I want to go back to the gymnasium as well. Our current weight room that we have would be repurposed as well. Then at that point, with the new fitness center weight room area, which would provide additional space for some of our other sports, such as wrestling, or multi-purpose room, possibly for cheerleading, but a matted room that would provide additional space. That is a nice usable space that is being taken with the weight room at this point in time, and with that move, that would take place as well. Ag barn, down at the bottom you can see some rough drawings of that. That would kind of be a showpiece located currently with an idea between the high school and the middle school and the wooded area just to the just south of the baseball fields there, in between the drive and the parking lot. This ag barn would not only repurpose the old ag barn, which I'll get to in a second, but it would provide a big space for the animals that our FFA works with. It would also provide classroom spaces as well as a place for food processing. As we continue to work with many collaboratives around West Michigan, around food processing, and an opportunity for our kids to get in an industry that's extremely rising. They're rising extremely. We're working with our food service director, Mr. Dan Gorman, as well, and some farms around West Michigan on food processing, and give our kids an opportunity, but then also be the food that we could work right into our cafeterias. Next on the list, you see there is a track, resurfacing and lining of a track. It is a track that needs updating and is starting to deteriorate in that process. It is an expensive process to do in that. Next is the auditorium updates here. Obviously this is a beautiful facility, but it's making sure that we're staying current in the digitalization of all that's here. The lights, creating into an LED idea, so cut down on costs as far as the lighting is concerned. Sound, music tech labs, scene shops in the back for our theater groups would have a better area to work in as well. Recording technologies, our new choir teacher has started classes around music technologies and recordings for our music work as well. So that would be something that we'd look to put in there as well. The current barn remodel, like I spoke previously, with a additional ag barn, we could remodel the current barn into a usable space. And we'd look to have a spots for our robotics team, an area that usable space that is sometimes hard to find throughout the district. And we've kind of been moving our robotics teams throughout the years from building to building, but a space where that robotics team can consistently practice. We'd also look to have our DECA, our business school, they're working into the printing press with shirts, and they need storage. So it'd be a place where the students could work out there, create the extra school gear that they've been creating and selling at the school store here in the high school. Band and choir, other things as well. So sound barriers within the classrooms to make sure that not only is it safe as far as the sound is concerned, but then it is aesthetic as well for the bands that are, or the music singers that are performing. Other equipment such as some of your larger instruments such as tubas or timpanis or music stands, some of those band equipment. For the marching band, looking at a tower for the band as they practice, along with good lighting and sound support in that process as well. Moving down further into baseball dugouts. Our current dugouts are quite old, and we have not made any changes to those over the years due to the ADA compliance that would need to take place in that process, and it could be quite expensive in that process. It is something that would need to be a flat level to allow for all individuals to get into that dugout. Next would be press boxes throughout the district. Obviously at Memorial Field with the soccer team, it would be a remodel of the current press box, making sure that we have windows that are efficient and work properly. Same with the football field as well, windows that work properly in that process. So a remodel of those press boxes, making sure we maximize space and opportunities for not only coaches and announcers and staff members, but for the press as well. That would be the additional of 2 press boxes at our softball field and our baseball field as well, so that we could provide tournaments as well moving forward. Memorial Field touch-up, looking for a ticket booth option for our soccer team that plays there, along with maybe some touch-up or revitalization of the actual Veterans Memorial that takes place there, but spruce that up and make that a showpiece for not only the district, but for the community as well. We put parking lots and scoreboards. As you can see, as you're adding things up, $12.5 million is a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily go quite as far. So we put those on there as usable items, or what we would call buckets, is what we're trying to put those dollars into. And depending on pricings and how things work, we'd love to be able to include those in that process, but we have with the parking lots an idea around some sinking fund dollars down the road, quite some time around the sinking fund on that, and then scoreboards, looking at possible donors or advertisements around some of those scoreboards. So those are the big major bond project ideas proposed at this point in time. Next slide, Mr. Gorham. Construction, if the bond is approved, put forth and then approved, Montague Public Schools would issue a request for a proposal, an RFP, which is a formal invitation for construction bids. Once this bid has been selected, the construction manager will work together with the district to see the project to completion. So these large projects most likely would not start after an approval of a vote for 10 to 12 months as far as the big ticket items, such as a performance gymnasium. Some of the smaller items could happen quite quickly after the paperwork filings and the tax collections have taken place in that manner. But for a large performance gym with just the materials where we're currently at, you're looking at 10 to 12 months at least. So when you're thinking of performance gym, when could that be up? When would that be used? It would most likely not have any use until that 24-25 school year. So it would be this year's freshman's senior year. Am I saying that correctly? Yes, this senior year. This process here, as far as the request for proposal, it provides true transparency for everyone so that we make sure that we as a district are getting the best prices that we can in this process with great work quality as well. We have currently also started the process. A district can choose their construction manager. We have been open and made some invitations to construction managers to see who would like to see us through with this process with Tower Pinkster, working closely with them as the architects. Next slide. The district is currently looking at in August of 2022, that would be this upcoming August ballot vote. That is a quick timeline. That would be the first opportunity that we could. We are also looking at the opportunities around in November of 2022 or a May of 2023. Like I previously said, we could gain some additional dollars, possibly by waiting, although there is a recommendation based upon inflation and the prices it does cost to build, that the quicker that we do run through this process, the more beneficial it could be for the use of our dollars. So if we were looking at a November vote, which would be into an election with many different elections, including your governors and attorney generals and many different votes, as well as school board members, it could increase up to $13.2 million. So you gain an extra $0.7 million. And then if we were to wait till May, we would gain an extra $1 million to $13.5 million. As said previously, the recommendation that $1 million could be easily lost in the inflation over the next year, but that is just an assumption at this point in time. March 9th, 6 p.m., another community forum just like this. We will have more detail, but we wanted to make sure we started this process as we are in a quick timeline. In order for us to look at an August vote, we would need to, on the March 14th board meeting, have to have an approval of that process to move forward. By the end of the month, being March 30th, we would look to have a meeting with the Department of Treasury to move that process forward, which would then create a May ballot language to be developed and sent to the state and sent to our county as far as the voting process to make sure for an August election to take place. Next slide. So this is an opportunity for you to ask any questions, comments, or concerns that you might have. I will have Mr. Gorman in a second go back to kind of the projects slide, as I think that's an important part, or we can kind of move around to the different slides. If you do not have specific questions at this point in time, obviously my email address is there along with the central office phone number. We are looking for more involvement as we move forward. I'm hoping that you would be very kind in spreading the word about this possible bond proposal to others and letting people know that the district is looking at such an option. Whether that be good or bad, I do think that it's important that we reach out to our community, get some input. We're going to work with some of our groups, our extracurricular groups, to make sure that some of the proposals and some of the ideas that we have as far as bid projects are correct in what we're thinking to move forward, and that the community supports this before we put this into action. So at this time, is there anyone that has any questions that they would like me to answer? Yes.
When you spoke of the walking track and the additional gymnasium there, would that be open on off-school hours for public use?
So most likely at certain times. I don't know if it would be open at all times. Obviously that would be something that would need to be staffed, which could be an increased cost to the district, so it would have to be worked upon based upon our current staff currently at this point in time. But yes, the idea would be that it would be something that could be used by other individuals throughout the community.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
Question. So this is the proposed footprint of how you see it right now.
Yes.
How much of it's going to change when it comes time to actually the proposal, you get the bids back, and what does that look like?
So I would say it'll start by making sure that our footprint of what our district is. So we have scanned in all our building footprints at this point in time. We have now turned that over to the architect in Tower Pinkster. They're going to try to make sure that it makes sense, that that'll actually structurally work, that is the best usable size. It'll give us a more concrete idea of numbers and pricing in that process. If it all works, I would guess that we would stay most similar to that.
Are we going to have input into what that looks like?
Yeah, so it is quite a process. So this is just an overview, really, for the August election. The final until the vote is yes, none of it actually takes place. We're doing these as mock-ups and sketches. There will be opportunities for input down the road as well as we move forward, like more specifically into some of that performance gym process. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question properly? Any other questions? Yes.
So we want to extend this mill where are we at with what we're doing now for the sinking fund? Like what things have been done, what hasn't been done? I mean, you say we can have this gym done in 2014. It passed, this last one passed in 2019. We still haven't got windows. And it's
Right.
been 3 years. But we can build the gym in 3 years.
So, the process is, in the sinking fund, we get X amount of dollars per year. So it's $3.2 million, so $320,000 a year is what we receive. Now, at the low dollars of $3.2 million, we as a district have decided not to take a loan out to gather all that $3.2 million. So we could do that. We could go to a banking institution. They would see it as this is money that is true to come. We could take out a loan for that $3.2 million and do all the projects all at one time. What we chose to do in that process, we started with our heating and cooling and boilers throughout the district. So on those years, we took the $320,000 a year and spent on those projects. We currently are working on now into
So 2 years worth of income was for boilers.
Yep.
And then we're on our 3rd year now. We've got that earmarked towards possible football furnaces, possible unit vents. We had some air conditioning units that had to be repaired. And we still have some excess boiler costs this year as well.
So and to give you a rough estimate, I would say in year 5 or 6 would be the air conditioning and windows at RO in that process. Unless a loan was to be taken out in that process. And at this point in time, the extra interest that would need to be paid on that wasn't thought to be the way to go. And then a final project of looking at the parking lots in that sinking fund, which was part of the project scope and sequence as well. That answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it does. You know, it also said that there was over $700,000 worth of work that needed to be done at the 2 new buildings back in 2019. It was in the article. So if we're trying to throw this together in a year or so, what's to say that we're not going to make a bunch of mistakes that cost us more money?
That could obviously be something that obviously we would look to make sure that we're running through a proper process. When you say in 2019,
the MLive article had listed the amount at each building that we were going to spend. And
are you talking on the sinking fund?
yeah, the sinking fund.
Okay.
So, you know, 2 new buildings that were less than a decade old were going to require a significant amount of money.
Right, and those were the parking lots, and it was to expand, and the MAC, our childhood center, was to expand a different parking lot for a better process as far as parking is concerned, and then the asphalt parking where all our buses are tearing up that asphalt as well. I would guess would be the majority of those dollars at those 2 facilities. The boilers and the other processes are within the middle school, high school, and early school as far as the overall dollars. Any other questions?
I guess with the sinking fund, I mean, why not take the loan? I mean, because interest rates are at the lowest rate they've ever been, and that seemed to be, you know, a real concern about getting all these things improved right away. And it sounds like this is like if I'm doing this right, this is over a 10-year period, that sinking fund is taking care of things as things are continuing to wear out throughout the district.
Correct.
I mean, to me, I would have looked at that as saying low interest rate, take it, get the projects done, move on. Because I think that, I mean, what he's bringing up, that is a little bit of a concern that I see and a hard selling point there. So I was just curious if there was another reason besides the interest rate on why the district did that.
I think just the scope and sequence of the project as well. We wanted to make sure that we started with our heating and cooling in that process. The boilers, it's efficiencies for us as a district, so we wanted to start that process first. Getting too many projects at one time could have been part of that process as well. Anything else?
Our legal counsel, so there are other processes that had to take place because we would be paying interest on public funds versus actually using them for the construction as was intended. So there was a process that our legal counsel said we'd have to go through to be able to do that.
Right. I do anticipate with the needs, windows throughout a building are extremely expensive as far as that air conditioning as well. We want to make sure that when we're providing that proper ventilation, that we have the windows to back that and keep that nice and cool as well. So at some point, there will need to be some borrowing of those dollars in that process. Yeah.
How many schools our size have 2 gymnasiums at the high school?
I would say most now. Most. With the change, and this was years ago, with the change of the winter sports season, when both basketballs combined into that winter season, that was when you saw the most need for extra gym space or gym time in that process. I would say that not all districts though, but there are, over the past 10, 12 years, many districts have built an additional gym to their work. And it might not always be at that high school, but it's additional gyms throughout the district to provide that extra practice space. Yes?
You mentioned about academics for like quiz bowls and things like that. Are you gonna offer other classes for academics? Like gifted kids and other kids that could use more classes?
Right. So we have, over the past, I'd say at least 3 years, continued every year to add an additional AP offering here at our high school. I believe we now have 6 AP offerings at our high school, depending on the semester that does take place. So we are, yes, trying to add additional offerings. I think that we do a nice job here in the district for the size of our district to be offering additional AP offerings, as well as some of our CTE programming with the DECA and the business classes, along with the ag and those additional classes as well.
Will you be adding those classes to like middle school and elementary?
We have not as of yet. We do have a advanced math in middle school, and then opportunities to take the high school math, but beyond that at this point, no, we have not.
Are there plans to?
Maybe if the numbers are there. As far as the high school process is concerned, we obviously have student input where they actually schedule for the classes that they're interested in. We then schedule classes based upon the number of students that are interested in those classes. So if we have larger groups, which we have over the past couple of years in some of those AP or those higher high-level classes, we have offered those. We also have new changes in the contract language that we're paying additional overages or independent studies for some of those students as well to create additional opportunities for them at the high school level. We have not reached, we did add some of the CTE programming around our ag. Ms. Firestein has now moved down into the middle school as another elective down there in that process. But it's not necessarily considered your high talented and gifted options, no. Yes?
Sorry, this might be a little bit off topic. I think this is great. This would make the district amazing. But when it comes to having nice things, I just am curious how the district plans to continue to invest in its teachers. So I mean, every time we turn on the news or listen to NPR, we talk about the teaching shortage. How does the district plan to like retain really good teachers, bring in really amazing teachers when the competitiveness around the area is that teachers?
Yes, it definitely is a challenge. It definitely is a challenge. We are currently going into the second year of a teacher contract, which will have a 2% increase, so the pay is part of that process, making sure the professional development's there as well. There is a possibility that they can gain up to another percentage increase as well in that process. We are beginning a process here to start on negotiations with a support staff, which obviously a support staff contract that needs to have increases as well. So I think step one is obviously making sure that we stay competitive, definitely with other schools, especially our lakeside schools as far as pay is concerned, but then having the professional developments or the workplace environment that wants them to stay here as well. So to say that it's going to be easy, it is not, just education as a whole. But I do think that I am currently, but then also superintendents and school districts across the state are working with legislators to make sure that we have some of that flexibility to make sure that we can get more individuals involved in education as teachers or support staff within the districts, and having some flexibility of how that takes place. Yes?
So who determines the priority of these projects? Because the way I understand it is, a lot of this hinges on the gym being built and then other spaces being built off that. Obviously, I'm one of the coaches that is practicing in the hallway right now and could use the space, but the way I understand it, your gym's not gonna be built for 3 years, therefore then the weight room would be built, then moved, therefore would open up practice space 4 years from now. Is that the way I understand that?
Well, the decisions haven't been made yet at this point, but obviously the focal area would be that performance gym to provide the additional space. As we get closer and into a process as far as a vote is concerned, we'd have a better, more concrete idea of numbers. So some projects would happen immediately though. It might not necessarily be big ticket items such as some of those other components that might be more expensive as far as like the track updates or all the auditorium updates. We would kind of put parts and pieces depending on the pricing as we get closer after choosing a construction manager, working with the architects to have a better understanding. The difference between $7 and $10 million is a lot of money, and you know, if we're working more towards the $7 million, that provides plenty of additional dollars, but we want to make sure that we have the right pricing first. Yes?
I mean, I think all of this is, I do think the gym space is needed, but this feels really geared towards high school only. It's just a statement, right, wrong, I don't, you know, I just feel like it's really geared toward high school kids in, you know, the elementary and middle school. You know, I feel like they deserve some extra stuff too. Like I have a son that is not necessarily sports oriented. Every sport, he does like some sports, not every sport. And I feel like it's very geared towards sports, which is amazing if your child is sports acclimated. Not all of them are. And I guess my other question would be, if it does vote and it passes, is there another discussion? Because we all know how, you know, I'm in supply chain right now. We know how quickly prices change. I mean, we're getting price increases where they used to be every quarter, now they're every other week. So is there, after it passes, is there another massaging of the money and the priority? I mean, this is a lot of projects, and you said with the sinking fund that it was hard to manage all of the separate projects, right? This is a lot.
So in this process is a little different, is that we would have a construction manager on hand to take care of all these projects, where in the sinking fund, we as a district manage those as far as the process is concerned. To speak to your point around high school heavy, yes, in all intents and purposes it is. The idea would be that it is not necessarily just sports, but the extracurriculars as a whole, and which would hopefully bolster the programs of those extracurricular activities. So in the extracurricular activities, whether it be band or choir or the theater, or the sports or the FFA, the ag, we would try to reach out into those middle schools and elementary students as far as programming is concerned, and have events or things for those students as far as programming is concerned. But as far as immediate use of students on point, it is more of a secondary or high school type project. That is correct. And I feel like I missed one other point. So
if it does pass, is there another massaging of?
Yes, I'm gonna let him. He's been through a bunch of these, and just kind of talk about processes and how that really takes place.
So my name's Matt, and I'm K-12 director at Tower Pinkster, and we do a lot of the school bonds around the area and design the schools in the area. So once the bond passes in August, it'll take about 10 months to design a gymnasium of this size, down to every block and every door and handle and all that good stuff. Through that process, you'll get about 3 different estimates from your construction manager. One at the first third, which is schematic design, one at the next phase, which is design development, and then generally 50% construction documents. So that by the time you go to bid, and they'll change based on, like you said, supply chain and what they're seeing on all their other projects. So these aren't necessarily general contractors, they're larger construction companies who are bidding things frequently. Next question.
So I guess if we get into all of these projects all at once, and then there's it can happen where you just don't have enough money to finish this beautiful gym that we need.
So the Department of Treasury allows you to carry a 10% contingency.
Okay.
So in that, say, $7 million number, you'll have 10% of that earmarked for unforeseen conditions, or building in the parking lot, you're not going to have a lot of unforeseen conditions under the asphalt as we dig it up and pour foundations. But you could see, an increase in steel prices like we've seen recently, and that will be a budget to navigate that.
So the answer is yes, there'll be more time and opportunity for input prior to the actual vote. So there'll be a closer, more specific scope and sequence by the time of the vote. After the vote with a yes, we will then start looking at prices, a better understanding of what's taking place to make sure we're not starting projects that cannot fiscally take place.
So after the vote and the pass and the price, and we have all that figured out, is there community involvement after that?
Yes, there will be. We'll have community groups. Correct. Yes.
Mrs. Chandler, but before we dive into this new gym and whatnot, will our elementary schools get the windows or AC? I think it's kind of more important.
I would have to look at exact timelines. I don't know as far as scope and sequence on that, how close it would be.
We're looking at 2 to 3 more years before we have enough funds to do it, and then I would say 2 years into it, we'll start looking into getting bids because supply chains.
It'll probably be close around the same time, the actual construction and the installation of those. Yeah.
So if we're looking just to get more gym time, why aren't we just building a more regular just practice facility?
I think this is a great representation for the community, making sure that we have a place where other members outside our community come and can enjoy themselves as well and watching events. It could be a possible draw for other families or districts in the area when they look to come to a school district, would be the idea. Any other questions? Yeah.
Have we ran out of space at our gym in a while? Like if we had to turn people away?
Turn people away, like as in fire
fans
codes?
or whatever?
No, but we have had struggles the past 2 large games here at the high school, yes.
Okay.
As far as fans and space. Another big issue in the gymnasium here is the height of the gymnasium as well. We cannot hold district volleyball events due to the height of the gymnasium as well in that process. So that would be another opportunity for us as a district, is to hold district events for volleyball.
Do we make a significant amount of money when we hold these things?
No. No. It's a great opportunity for kids in the community.
Good for girls' sports.
Yeah.
Volleyball.
Do we need more than 12 million?
That could be up for discussion. As we dig closer, as we look to, if we continue to move forward in this process and we get into construction management companies with the prices and inflations, it could be possible. I don't want to say yes, but I don't want to say no either in that process. The idea was obviously at a 0 mil increase to be able to provide extra opportunities for the district. Other questions?
I'm sure if we get a new gym, other people are going to be asking to use it. Are we going to charge people if this happens?
Yeah, we do. So our facility rental process that we currently have in this process for outside organizations, we do charge We have a process for that. It will open additional times for them as well, obviously in this process that we can charge. To say that it's going to be a large revenue maker, I don't think it, but it would provide additional opportunities for our children of the community of both Montague and Whitehall to have an opportunity for extra practices. Yes.
When taking in the design for the new gym, do you check out local schools, say like Whitehall schools or Kennel Hills, Orchard View, and how their performance gyms are set up?
Yes, yes. So obviously that's another nice thing with Tower Pinkster and the many different facilities that they have built. Also with Mr. Cedarquist here as well as myself, we've visited other locations and will continue to in this process visit other gymnasiums as well. Obviously this is based upon some other drawings or things that have taken place in other districts.
I mean, like from their babies, their coaches, not just from an archetype standpoint, I guess.
Yeah, so once the bond passes, we would then engage staff and interested community members to go on benchmarking tours. And ideally, we'd like to have a day of, let's go visit, let's first identify the 4 we want to do, and then let's go visit them and talk to the staff and see what's liked and what's disliked. This is just really a bubble diagram to represent square footage that associates with a dollar amount that gets put in the bond, and then you have, ultimate choices to make, and they get more and more specific down to the door handle at the end, but we help kind of narrow that down for you, but certainly with everybody's input is welcome.
Yes.
With these agricultural facilities, I want back to that focus and get off the gym. There's so much agriculture in northern and Oceana County. Do you foresee at some point maybe if we build a facility like this being able to offer CTC offerings to not only kids here in Montague, but maybe the Shelby, New Era, because our kids have to go all the way to the Muskegon Area Career Tech Center for a lot of those offerings. We're fortunate here at our school that we have these beautiful facilities, but for like Shelby to go all the way to Muskegon, that's not an option for them. Do you see maybe this would be something that we could
I do, and as part of the process and part of why we're continuing to move forward, not only with our ag department, but Mr. Gorman and food service as well, working in West Michigan Collaboratives. Recently, not so recently, but the Consumers Power Plant in Reese Buffer School District had closed a few years ago. I'm sure some of you remember the stack falling, but in that process they had to find ways to make sure that the community became thriving as it moving forward. So they did a number of different studies, and in that process they saw that agriculture and the food processing market is the area for the most growth within the West Michigan area, and that would be from St. Joseph all the way up to Traverse City. So in that process, there's being a lot of state dollars around, also local dollars, really trying to put into that market, and we're trying to work into that process as well and create the leaders of tomorrow in that industry through our ag department. In that barn, it would provide other opportunities for such thing as possible ag mechanics or ag repairs, depending on the students and the situations that we have in the district. So yes, providing some of those additional CTE programmings as well. I believe you had a question as well? Yeah.
Yes. So I agree about that. It's really cool. How did this list come about? Was it is there a bigger list of, like a wish list, if you will, of, teachers across all 3, like the elementary, middle school, and the high school? Is there like an overall wish list, or?
This was just based upon recent, within the past couple of years, needs that we have been requested as far as providing additional space or things for our extracurricular activities that we have within the district. And from there, it was me taking those ideas myself and kind of jotting them down and putting them together around one centralized theme, being extracurricular activities.
So the ideas came from teachers, students, community, all?
I would say community, parents, coaches, teachers, staff at the more of the secondary level. There's another question. Yeah.
So with this list, you've kind of touched on a lot of different programs, which is great, just about every sport that we have as well. Do you have any intentions of doing any type of softball field improvements?
So.
Probably our worst field that we have here in our schools. I don't really see anything on there that touches on that.
The only thing that would touch on that would be the press box. There would be an addition of a press box there. In the dugouts pricing, there would be a remodel, touch-up of the softball dugouts and the soccer dugouts as well, along with the new build of baseball dugouts.
So nothing improving like the grounds of it? I mean,
Not-
I can go to
not-
a baseball game and kind of sit on the ground and the grass is nice, whereas our softball field is dirt, it's uneven, there's, roots and everything all around it. So kind of just even maintaining and improving some of the stuff that we have right now.
Yeah, that is not built in any of these prices, but obviously that's why we're looking for community input as well. Yeah. Other questions that you may have? So back to that last slide, Mr. Gorman. If you think of additional questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email me, or that is the number here at Central Office. I would love to talk more. Please have conversations with others in the community. We'd love to get additional input as far as this process and looking whether or not to move forward in this process and what that might mean for the district, what advantages we gain in this process. And what projects we should really emphasize moving forward in this extracurricular bond idea.
Jeff, when is this going to be posted for us to watch?
It will tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning?
Yeah, exactly. There is, you might actually even be able to get it tonight on our webpage. We do have the link there because it is being live streamed actually. That you could get, but we will have another post with it and social media posts with that link as well.
If you're on Facebook, if you go to Catchmark Technologies, there's a YouTube link to it right now. Okay.
Anything else? Anything else you think I should add, Mr. Slater? Mr. Cedarquist? Ms. Brown? All right. Well, thank you so much for attending tonight. Like I said, spread the word, to have conversations, questions, comments, concerns to me. I do think it provides additional opportunities for the students of this district, not only in the near future, but for years to come as well. As we move along in this process, if we choose to move forward, I think that there will be plenty of opportunities for communities and committees to work forth to put forth the best product for the district moving forward. All right? Thank you.